Hi, everybody. We are going to do a quick information session on advanced facilitator training and what this kind of is about, what it's going to cover, and who it's for. And the goal of this really is for folks who have been doing facilitation in lots of different instances, maybe in management, maybe as an educator, maybe as a activist, but using the intergroup dialogue model to be more intentional about bridging differences, bringing people together, using facilitation skills and dialogic skills to do the work that you already have been doing. So that's what we're going to cover in this information session. My name is Manpreet de Lombrar. I'm here with the executive director and my friend, Rebecca Canara, and we're with the Universal Human Rights Initiative. So Rebecca, I'm going to pass it to you to just give a little bit of insight about what UHRI is and why we follow this intergroup dialogue model to do a lot of our work.
Yeah, hello everybody. Universal Human Rights Initiative has been around since 2016, and you can think of us as really focused on human rights education, but doing that with real commitment to both dialogue and action. And so we have different programming around gaining access, increasing access to the Universal Declaration of Human Rights and to resources, content, educational sources that anybody, folks like educators, professors can use in their classrooms with students, or anyone interested can really dig into resources around human rights and think about what does that mean for them and their community. A lot of what we're doing is both in person and online, entering into intergroup dialogues in different ways. So they can take shape of 90-minute sessions on a specific theme, like interrupting bias and other themes around that really work towards anti-polarization and really building people's empathy and investment in human rights for all. Or we do trainings just in intergroup dialogue with anyone who wants to join, or with local nonprofits or for-profits. And then we also offer these facilitator trainings in intergroup dialogue. So that if you are already facilitating, or you're interested in becoming a facilitator in general, it may apply to like Manpreet was saying, to the work that you already do, or you want to get involved in communities and offer intergroup dialogues to build connections across everyone's different experiences, then we can support you in going through that training and taking time to practice and get feedback from your peers, and have a library of resources that you can use in the work that you would then be doing. So I think I'll sum it up there. And UHRI, I'm going to take a moment to do a land and labor acknowledgement. At UHRI, we acknowledge that we are actively benefiting from occupying ancestral lands of Tongva people as the traditional caretakers of Tavangar, on whose ancestral lands we reside, gather, and pray. Land acknowledgements, though, do not exist in past tense or historical context. We honor and thank all of the ancestors and their descendants here today, and the contributions of all of our relatives, past, present, and future. We also honor the legacy of the African diaspora and Black life, knowledge, and skills stolen due to violence and white supremacy. Collectively, UHRI and all of our communities are saying that police and white violence must end. Black lives matter. We also honor all immigrant and indigenous labor, including voluntary, involuntary, trafficked, forced, and undocumented peoples who contributed to the building of the country and continue to serve within our labor force. And so we want to take this moment to just ask that we commit to take what we learn here today or on any day and incorporate it into our lives and turn our words into actions. So if we can just take a quick moment to pause, think about the lands you're residing on, the people you're connected to, and make that commitment.
You're Rebecca. And we're housed in Los Angeles, or the Tongva land, but we do our work kind of internationally, and especially around intergroup dialogue. So for today, this info session, we're really just hoping to share what the four-stage intergroup dialogue model is and think about ways that it can, this advanced facilitation training using these intergroup dialogic skills can help enhance the work that you're already doing. One of the key things we wanted to mention from the get-go is that with the intergroup dialogue model that came out of the University of Michigan, is well researched, is a robust model with over 30 years of evidence backing it up, is set with co-facilitators in mind. So we will always encourage that, especially when we're targeting challenging topics and difficult conversations, that we have co-facilitators when possible, doing the work together. And that's why Rebecca and I are here today, even together, presenting this work. Overall, the training is going to focus on really sharing what the four-stage model is, how it's important, like I said, in facilitating, especially challenging and difficult conversations, and to enhance and also practice the skills that you already have as facilitators. And a lot of that we'll do through dialoguing, through modeling, through talking about difficult topics. So things like empathy, active listening, conflict resolution. These are things that as facilitators we use on a regular, but we'll use the intergroup dialogue model to have those conversations by using real life scenarios. And there's going to be a lot of time to actually practice those skills, practice facilitating and receiving kind of peer-to-peer feedback as we go forward. So that's going to be the focus of this training, this advanced facilitator training. So in this case, we've said this, but what we're hoping is we can target experienced facilitators, right? We've been doing this, like I've been doing intergroup dialogue specifically for over 10 years now, but I still learn so much from every group that I'm part of. So, but this can also be helpful for folks who are in education, in leadership roles, folks who are activists and kind of on the ground, people who are regularly facilitating even controversial topics or leading groups, professionals in HR. So it's really to practice and enhance the skills that we already have, but have some language and have some tools, right? Add to our facilitator toolkit on how to have especially challenging discussions, given the politically divisive world we're living in right now and the challenges that we can all expect going forward. So for folks who are able to join us live, we just did this icebreaker where we asked folks to just think about 2 truths that they can share of what's been true for them in their experience in their facilitation, and lead into 1 dream or aspiration that they have going forward in their facilitation journey. And for anyone watching this recording, I want to encourage you to also think through this. And I think this is so powerful because for us, folks who have been facilitating, there's not enough time always to self-reflect. And that's a key thing we're going to be doing during this training and during this connection time, is self-reflecting and collectively reflecting. And we're going to be able to go really deep because intergroup dialogue is about the intergroup, right? The intergroup experience. So with facilitators in the room, we've got really deep experiences and knowledge and things that we can share with each other. So let's just first do kind of an overview of what is dialogue and why we're asking for dialogue as the form of facilitation versus being able to facilitate a discussion or a debate and how those look so different. So Rebecca, I'm going to ask you to just sum this up very briefly.
Sure. Yeah, and I'll just say it actually came up just building on what Manpreet was saying about when we had our private dialogue just now, is this way in which we may be accustomed to a debate type of way of engaging, trying to prove that I'm right, you're wrong, trying to convince you to come over to my perspective, trying to punish you, trying, whatever it is, or just that academic place of I'm going to show you just how much I know, or we're only going to talk about some surface level facts. I don't want to let you in and experience what I'm really feeling or who I am more deeply. And what was really special in in our dialogue just now is that we went there to that deeper place, but also when we talked about the dream, is that when you get to that dialogic type of way of engaging, which is so much more open-ended, which is not, is letting go of trying to prove right and wrong, letting go of the outcomes that you're trying to get to maybe when you first entered, but really listening without judgment, actively with empathy and really taking this multi-partial perspective of hearing and valuing different perspectives and bringing out these much more ambivalent or ambiguous areas and information and going to the feelings place. All of these things are ways in which we can engage together, and the outcomes in intergroup dialogue are pretty powerful because we're always moving towards action and whatever that means for you. And so part of what's shared in our private group even was this way in which our dreams for our own facilitation are very different dreams. And yet we all were really excited to hear about each other's dreams, and we could see each other supporting each other in those, right? That open-ended piece leads to a lot of different ways that you can apply intergroup dialogue. And it's fun for us as facilitators to see what people then do once they've been trained in it, and where it expands into their spheres of influence. So that's my summary of this quick slide.
Thank you. And I think you went there where we do this using this particular model, right, of intergroup dialogue. So it is about the people who are in the room and the experiences they're bringing as experts in their life story, right, and their journeys throughout dealing with conflict or dealing with kind of coming to an understanding around their identities and how they work and deal with controversial topics and issues and what type of action they take in terms of social justice. So this model is what we'll use for the advanced facilitation training to give an overview of how it allows for building of a community. So with stage one, really asking folks to create a community where there's trust and there are tools that we've practiced to allow for deeper thinking, collaborative thinking, and sharing to happen. So one of the kind of advanced facilitation skills that we'll practice and ask folks to hold on in this stage are around deep cultural competency, really understanding each other's and our own social identities and how they shaped our experiences, empathy, and perspective taking, as well as active listening. We all know what listening looks like, but truly actively listening to understand and be able to kind of, reflect back to individuals as a key facilitation tool. And of course, we all function within systems of oppression. So that's where stage two comes in, where we really take participants as facilitators through understanding how our own identities have been shaped by these intersecting and inequities and systemic inequities. So during this time, we'll really practice facilitating complex discussions where it's about not just us, right? Me, my experience, but also our experience collectively, and how we've been socialized to believe what we've been believing, we've been upholding, the beliefs we've been upholding. So some of the facilitation experience tools and things that we'll practice are around understanding group dynamics and facilitating this development and learning for the group. And then also practicing kind of feedback, giving feedback in a constructive manner that moves the group forward, which will take us into stage three, where really now we practice dialogic skills. So we take the group in our facilitation to practice those dialogue skills using some sort of hot topic or controversial issue that comes up that the group chooses. So in the advanced facilitation training, this is where we're really practicing conflict resolution skills. This is where we're really practicing facilitating those challenging conversations and being a multi-partial facilitator. So really what multi-partiality means for us and why we can't be neutral when it comes to things like systemic oppression, right? And things like racism or all of these isms, but we can still hold a conversation where there's a learning that happens and the group moves forward towards social justice. That's the ultimate goal. So with stage four, We plan and take action, oftentimes individual action and collective action. So action planning and alliance building will be the advanced facilitation skill that's practiced during this stage. So through kind of taking folks across these 4 stages and practicing our advanced facilitation skills, we're hoping that we can use this intergroup dialogue model to take folks who might be coming from different experiences into a group setting, build that trust, practice dialogue skills, navigate difficult conversations and conflicts and hot topics, and ultimately ask folks to take action. And this is where we're going to ask if you can just take a moment to reflect how you think you can use intergroup dialogue as a tool in your spheres of influence. And I think Rebecca always gives good examples of this. So I'll pass it on to you, Rebecca, just to share, because it's not just about work, right? It's about the community work you do and your friends and family.
Yeah, so and one thing I will say too is I mentioned earlier, we love when we see in that stage 4 part what you come up with, especially if you're now becoming an intergroup dialogue facilitator, what you're interested in. But UHRI is happy to support you as best we can with what resources we can, or and reaching out to our community to invite people to dialogues that you want to create. And so part of that, for example, is newer facilitators on our team are working towards creating disability awareness dialogue series where they'll be facilitating and bringing people together to talk about disability justice, intersectionality. So taking a really multi-partial approach. So there, in the work setting, there are times when HR teams are interested in either UHRI coming in and doing dialogue work with them, either to help internal team building or to do workshops for employees, or to even think about what kind of ways in which we can provide a DEI department, for example, within HR or outside of it, training and intergroup dialogue, so then they'll take it and use that to facilitate conversations on their own. In educational settings on university campuses, student affairs, and other departments, even athletics departments. We're even talking right now about IT professionals, really employing intergroup dialogue as a way to build community, to build competencies in facilitating conversations, and thinking about even who's involved and who's being included and whose voices are missing in conversations that need to be happening on campuses. And that can include also thinking about taking that critical lens to think about who are we creating this for? Are we only creating this for faculty? Are we creating it for student, staff, and faculty, which is a lot of the work we were doing last year? Thinking about like, how are we getting even more inclusive in the dialogues that we're building? In the community setting, there are a lot of opportunities for people to create dialogue spaces to support different parts of their communities, whether it's to build bridges among different populations in the community. Like, one of the ways we have been engaged in is housed and unhoused folks coming together in a community over time. That's part of the intergroup dialogue model, is also that sustained, continued coming back together, time apart, time together, so that we have time to process and dig deeper and have more nuanced understanding of what we can learn from each other. So housed and unhoused folks coming together, but also there's plenty of other community groups that might be at odds, and bringing them together. And then we have a lot of people who say, I need to do this with my family, I need to do this with my friends, or we've heard a lot of rupture right now when it comes to people talking about politics, when talking about conflicts in the world. There are a lot of ways in which the dialogue experience can help with that as well. So those are just some examples, and I'd love for you to, take time to think about how does this apply? And when we mean spheres of influence, we are talking about these different spheres, right? Your immediate family and friends, and then branching out.
Thank you, Rebecca. And I was like, oh, you'll share an example of how you've used it with family and friends. But yes, I think I often use these skills like truly active listening with even my spouse or close friends, right? Because this comes up, so it's not just in the workplace setting. Oops. But generally, to sum us up, intergroup dialogue is a style of communication, but interactive style of communication where we're focusing on actively listening to different viewpoints. And it happens when we're really interested in learning about perspectives of other people. So as facilitators, we always center people's experiences. We start with the assumption that people are experts in their own experience, and we come from a place of empathy, but with the goals of social justice in mind.